understand it by the time
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, there you go.
Alright, so today we're going to be working towards an outline. So by the end of the week, you should have an outline finished for us. So we're going to be working on today organizing and processing your notes so that way when you do your outline, you can just plug your text evidence in. And by the end of the day, we'll actually have your thesis statement put together so you can start organizing your information tomorrow and plugging it into your outline. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put my text evidence out here so I can see it. So I have a couple pieces lined up next to each other so I can look at it. And I'm going to begin by looking for different pieces of information that are related. So that way when I start putting my paper together, I'll know how the information is related. So for example, all the information about education might be in a paragraph, all of the information about pay might be in a paragraph. So whatever you're talking about, you want to have it so you know where your text evidence is going to fit in to your outline in your paper. Some different ways you could organize it. I might number it, so I might do a 1, 2, 3. So everything about education, I might number 1. Everything about pay, I might number 2. I could do symbols, so I could do a star, a plus, and a circle. Or I could use highlighters and highlight certain information that's all about that are related green, or I could highlight them all blue if they're related. So that way when I look at my text evidence, I don't have to read through every single piece of evidence. I can just look at it and see, okay, all the ones with stars are going to go in this second paragraph. So as I look through here, I'm going to start just reading through my text evidence and start to organize it. So I have, my first one here says, women, the survey states, more frequently hold sub-editor positions. So that one kind of talks about the treatment of women. And so that one's about the treatment of women. So I might put their treatment in the workplace. So I'm going to put a plus here. So anything that's about treatment in the workplace, I'm going to put a plus next to for my text evidence. Down to my next one. Men earn a lot more money than women do in editing and magazine management, and men get $39,599 per year, while women get $25,658 per year. So this is about pay. So that's kind of different than the treatment, so I'm going to want to do a different symbol for that. So I'm going to put a star next to that. So anything about pay, I'll star. And here it says, men in the editing business can be paid to the tune of 54% better than women. Also about pay, so I put another star here. So I have one already figured out, but I'm going to go to my next piece of text evidence here. It says, for example, research indicates that salary for women is an average between $10,000 and $20,000 less than those of male counterparts. Okay, so even though it's a different piece of evidence, this information still relates to the pay subtopic here. So this is still going to be a star here. So when I look at all these together, these three pieces are going to go in the same paragraph of my outline. Now I might move on to a different piece of evidence here. So this one talks about the Taliban and how their education in Pakistan, the women it's a lot worse there, the education. So you see here it says the literacy rate in Pakistan is 69% for men, but only 40% for women. So I might put a little circle. So that's different. That's about education. So that's different than anything I've learned about so far. So right now I have 3 different areas here that I'm putting my information in and how they're related. As I'm looking at this, I might start thinking about some questions that come up too. So over here I see I have information about the money they make in management, but maybe I want to know more about what's the pay in sports like. So I might put a little note down here, pay in sports. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to want to do a little more research and find out, okay, is there the same uneven payment in all different areas? Or is it just in the magazine editing world that it's that way? So I might put a little note. So as you're looking for related information, you're also making notes about what else you could talk about, maybe if there's more you want to look up. After you've looked at your information that's related, we're going to see, are there any gaps here? Is there anything that I want to know more about, like treatment? I only have one piece of information about treatment in the workplace. It's a big gap there. I'm going to need to find out more. So I might say, look for treatment of women or men, it could do either, in raises. Do they get a different amount of raises, their benefits, promotions, different things I could look up because I'm going to need more information. I can't have one piece of text evidence. I'm going to need more than one piece. So I'm making a note here to look for my gaps. After that, I'm going to look at my notes and think about what's missing and maybe some of my information is skewing it. So for example here, this talks about how in the Taliban the education is and how it is in Pakistan. But if my whole paper is about what it's like in America, what sexism and how it's affecting Americans, it's really going to skew my whole paper if I go in talking about Pakistan. I could use it to compare and contrast, but I'm going to need some stuff about American education system. So I'm looking for my information and see, does it line up or is there more I need to find? So I might put a note here, education in America. I'm going to want to find some more about that. And we had in another class, they said you could keep that information, or I might find out, I might want to throw this information out altogether. So you might have a piece of information that doesn't quite fit in and you might throw it out, or you find a way, could it fit in my introduction? Could it fit in my conclusion? So you might try to find a new way to put the information in if it doesn't fit in one of your groups. So we're gonna move on then at the end, and you'll get a chance to work towards our thesis, and we'll talk about that after I give you some time to process. So I showed you the whole process, but I broke it down into some different questions. So this time you can take out your notes and a blank piece of paper, and I'm going to go ahead and put up the questions for you, and we'll talk about each one, and you'll get about 5 or 6 minutes to work through processing your notes.
Love it. Okay.
So we're going to start out, you're going to find, like I did earlier, you're going to find pieces of information that are related. So how I use the coding system where I did stars, pluses, circles, you can use highlighters, you can number, but some way you need to find in your, looking at all your evidence, finding a way to know how these different pieces of information relate. So the ones that are similar, you're going to want to put some symbol or a color next to it so you know they're similar. Once you've gone through your text evidence and coded it, and so you know when you look at it where it fits in, on your sheet of paper I want you to write about how they are related, what do they have in common, what's different about them, and then any questions about some more information you might want to find about that. So I'll give you about 5 or 6 minutes here to go through your information and start coding it. Oh, sorry, these note cards are going to be for later. Notes again. This time I want to see, are there any gaps? Is there any more information you need to find? So for example, when I was looking at it, I had information about the pay and the workplace in editing and magazines, but I want to find out more about that. Is it in sports? Is it in other parts? When we talked about the treatment, I wanted to find out more about for benefits and promotions. So looking at what you do have, is there any more information you want to find to help enrich your text evidence? So maybe you'll have to go back and look at your articles you have now. Maybe you'll want to look at new articles or ones from your group. So thinking, is there any more gaps that I need to try to fill with new text evidence? So you're writing down some notes on that for the next 4 minutes here.
Good job.
Alright, so this time you are going to look at your notes, think about what's missing, and think about the perspectives of your topics that you have. So think about how that might skew. Maybe, for example, in mine, I talked about the education in Pakistan, but that might skew my whole paper. It might take it a different direction. So I need to find information about the American education system to bring it back and make it all tie in. Then I could compare and contrast, but I'm going to need to find more information about that. So you're going to be thinking about if there's any perspectives in here that might skew what you're trying to write in your paper. What information can you bring in? At this point also I want you to look at, is there a piece of information that didn't fit in at all? Maybe it only fit in one place there and you don't have anything else to support it. So you got to think, do I want to keep this piece of information and find more to support it? Or do I just throw it out? Or maybe do you put it in your intro or your conclusion? So this is where you're taking the extra pieces of information and finding a place to fit them in. And you're also looking, maybe you need to find a little bit more to make those pieces of information work. So go ahead and we'll take the next 5 minutes or so to think about that. So the next thing we're going to do is prepare to write our thesis. So a thesis is a claim or statement, right, about our belief. So our ism, so we're going to have our ism, and part of that it's going to be a claim about our ism, and then it's going to tell us what the rest of the paragraph is, or rest of the paper is about. So we're going to have our main categories. So what I want you to do now is I want you to think about what are the big ideas or the categories that emerge from your notes, because these are going to go directly into your thesis. So if I'm looking at what I did as my model, I would see, okay, I had different pieces of evidence about pay, so one of my categories might be lower pay for women. I did another one, I saw different treatment, so treatment in the workplace would be my heading or category. And then I talked about education, so I might talk about the educational differences. So you're coming up with 3 different big ideas or categories that will be like all your text evidence would fit under those 3 headings, and then each of those categories would correspond to a body paragraph in your paper. So right now you're coming up with your 3 big ideas or categories that emerge from your notes. So your information that are related is what you'll look at to form those categories. Writing your thesis. So you just spent the last few minutes getting your big categories down, which are going to be directly put in there, and each of those categories is going to correspond to your body paragraphs. So just like your thesis, you have your claim, and then you talk about what it's about. So I already have mine from the model here. I talked about one of my big ideas were lower pay of women, treatment in the workplace, and educational differences were my 3 big categories. So I was going to put that in a thesis. I'm going to first need to start by talking about what my ism is. So I'll say what my ism is and make a claim about that. So this whole model that I've been putting together is about how it's very evident, right, in our workplace or in our society. So I would start out my thesis. I'll start it out saying sexism is evident throughout society due to, so my claim is that we have sexism in our society, and then it's due to our lower pay of women, treatment in the workplace, and the educational differences. So see how I started out making my claim, I say my ism, because we need to know what this whole paper is about, your ism. The claim about it is that it's evident in society, and then I go into my 3 big ideas that I'm going to talk about throughout my paper. So by the end of today, you should have a thesis written down for tomorrow, so that way we can get started tomorrow plugging in your outline, and each of these will correspond to your paragraph, so you'll start plugging your text evidence. So once you get your thesis down, you'll be ready to get started on your outline.